Hello everyone, for this video we're going to talk about quartiles for group data. Now our learning target for this video, I can determine the quartiles of group data. Here's the guide questions that hopefully you can answer after watching this video. Okay, so here's the formula to find the quartile 1 for group data. And this will be your formula to find quartile 3 for group data. But by the way, what if you are going to solve for quartile 2 for group data? So you just simply modify our equation here. All the 3's here, we will just change it to 2. Like for example, Q2 equals lower boundary of the Q2 class plus 2n over 4 deducted by cumulative frequency before and then divided by frequency of the Q2 class and multiplied with your size of class interval. Okay, so here's our first problem, guys. So find the Q1, Q3, and then the interquartile range of the following set of data. So here, as you can see, we do have a lot of scores or data given, and if we're going to count them all, we'll have a total of 30 scores, or that means our sample size is very large, and with that, it indicates that we are supposed to solve for the quartiles for group data. So since we do have the list only of all the scores or data that we are going to solve for, we need to create first the frequency distribution table for that. And in our previous video lesson, I was able to make the video in creating frequency distribution table, but I'm gonna run through the steps here so that you will be guided again. So for the step 1, arrange the data in ascending order. Step 2, compute for range of the data. Step 3, solve for the class size. Step 4, construct the class intervals in the frequency distribution table. And step 5, fill out the frequency of the scores according to the class interval. So if you wanted to understand the creating frequency distribution table thoroughly, so you may watch the video I posted before this one. Okay. So after having your frequency distribution table, you may now proceed with your step 6 that would help you to go on with your computation on quartile 1, quartile 3, and then your interquartile range. So we need to have our cumulative frequency table. Now guys, here, since if we are done with our class intervals already and our frequencies, we can now write for our less than cumulative frequency. By the way, I included as well how are we going to fill in the cumulative frequencies column there in my video lesson in creating FDT. Okay, but by the way, let's have here. So of course, we are going to start at the lowest class that we have, so 70 to 74. The frequency is 3. So we would start with the first frequency here at the lowest class. And now, since we do have here the 3, so to get the next cumulative frequency, we just simply add 3 to the succeeding frequency. Okay, and that would be 5. So 3 plus 5, and that is, we would have here 8. Next is 8 plus 12, we would have 20. Next is 20 plus 8, we would have 28. And lastly, 28 plus 2 is 30. And as you can see, our highest cumulative frequency here is 30. And this is the same with the total number of scores or data that we have, or the value of n, which is 30. That means you got or you gathered correct data here in the table. Okay, next to that is you need to identify the Q1, Q2, and Q3 class first. So whatever rank or position you are supposed to compute for, you need to identify first which class do they belong. So since we are going to find out for or solve for Q1 and Q3, you need to be particular first where is your Q1 class and Q3 class. But of course, I'm gonna share to you the formula for all. So we have here, how are we going to find the rank or position of our Q1? So first we have n over 4. So n is, we have 30. So 30 divided by 4, we do have 7 so 7.5. So that means, so 7.5, how are we going to look this here in our table? So of course, we are going to focus, guys, with our cumulative frequency column. Now here, if you're going to interpret, so here in our cumulative frequency, so the lowest cumulative frequency that we have is 3. Now here, this means that rank 1 up to 3 belongs to class 70 to 74. So the lowest top 3. Okay, next is for our second class. So we have here 8 as the cumulative frequency. That means it includes rank 4 up to rank 8. So if we do have 7.5 here, therefore we can say that this will be our Q1 class, 75 to 79. Okay, moving on. For our Q2 class, how are we going to compute that? So we do have our formula here again. So 2 times our n, which is 30, divided by 4. So 2 times 30, we do have 60. Divided by 4, then we would have 15. And in some cases, others would do the shortcut. They will just simply multiply 7.5 by 2 and they will get 15. And it's the same. It's your choice. But anyway, let's look for which class does Q2 belong. So we have 15. So another interpretation. So here, as you can see, the cumulative frequency of the third class is 20. That means that rank 9 up to rank 20 belongs to this class. And that means rank 15 belongs to 80 to 84 class. Okay, next one, we have 3n over 4. So same manner. So let's just substitute our value of n. So 3 times 30, so we would have 90, then divided by 4, then we would have 22.5. Or same manner, if we're going to do the shortcut, 7.5 times 3, you will have 22.5 as well. Okay, now moving on, let's look for the class wherein this Q3 belongs. So since the cumulative frequency of class 85 to 89 is 28, therefore it means that it started with rank 21 up to rank 28, and that means we can say that rank 22.5 belongs to this class. So therefore, our Q3 class is 85 to 89. Okay. So since we're done with identifying our Q1 class, Q2 class, and Q3 class, we can now proceed with our computation itself. But of course, before we proceed to that, let us first identify all the necessary data in our formula. So as you can see, we need for the lower boundary of the Q1 class, the total frequency, and the rest. So we need to identify those first. So again, let us take note that a while ago, we were able to get our Q1 class wherein we consider this one 75 to 79 as our Q1 class. So that will be our focus to find for our lower boundary cumulative frequency before the Q1 class and then the frequency of the Q1 class. Okay, so of course, let's start with lower boundary of the Q1 class is 74.5. You just simply focus with your lower limit. Here in our Q1 class, our lower limit is 75. You just simply deduct it by 0.5 always. So 75 minus 0.5, you will have 74.5. Okay, next is for your total frequency. So here, as you can see, our n is equal to 30. You just simply sum up all the frequencies. So 2 plus 8 plus 12 plus 5 plus 3, it's 30. Okay, so next is we have cumulative frequency before the Q1 class or below the Q1 class. So here, Our Q1 class is this one, the one with the yellow highlight. So here, you just simply look at the cumulative frequency before or below. So that means this one. So it's 3. Okay, next is frequency of the Q1 class. Of course, as you can see here, our Q1 class is this one, and then the frequency is 5. Okay, and lastly, size of the class interval. So if you were able to solve for the I a while ago in creating the frequency distribution table, then in step 5, there you will be able to get or to solve for the class size or the class width or the class interval. But anyway, if in case that in the given set of data type, it is already in um, group in the table, then you can simply look at the upper limit and lower limit of your classes. You just simply do this formula to get the I. So upper limit minus lower limit plus 1. So 74 minus 70. So 4 plus 1, it's 5. So here, it's 5. So same, if you're going to use other classes to check for I, so 84 minus 80 plus 1, so it's 5 again. And 79 minus 75, it's 4 plus 1, it's 5 as well. So that means your I will be always 5. So here in this problem. Okay, so next is, since we were able to gather all the necessary data already, you can now substitute in our formula. So don't forget, so lower boundary of the Q1 class is 74.5. All the data in red ink. So these are the values that we've substituted. N is for 30. Cumulative frequency below is 3. Our frequency of the Q1 class is 5. And then our I is 5. And of course, you proceed with simplifying. So you process first those inside the parentheses. So 30 divided by 4, so 7.5. And then after that, 7.5 minus 3, you will have 4.5. And then 4.5 divided by 5, you will have 0.9. And then next to that is you may multiply it with 5 and you would have 4.5. And lastly, you combine it with 74.5. So you need to know how to do the PEMDAS or the proper simplification or simplifying of different operations here in our formula. So lastly, you'll just simply combine with 74.5 and you will have 79. Therefore, you're done. Your Q1 is 79. Okay, so next is, let's compute for the quartile 3 or the upper quartile. So this time we are supposed to focus with our Q3 class. So that is why I highlighted it here as well. So this is our Q3 class 85 to 89. Now let's identify the following data. First, we have lower boundary of the Q3 class. As you can see, our lower limit is 85. So you simply deduct it by 0.5 and that means we would have 84.5. Next is total number or the frequency. So we would have 30, same, n is equal to 30. Next is for our cumulative frequency before the Q3 class, as you can see, or below the Q3 class. So here 28 is the CF of our Q3 class, but before that or below that we have 20. So that is why we have here 20. Next is frequency of the Q3 class. So here we have 8. And lastly, we do have, since it's the same with the previous data that we've answered, so our size of the class interval will be 5 as well. Or you just simply do the formula, which is upper limit minus lower limit plus 1. So 74 minus 70 plus 1, it's 5. So 5. And then after that, since we were able to gather already all the necessary data for our formula, just simply substitute everything and then simplify, do the process, the PEMDAS properly. So we're going to process first those inside the parentheses and we would have here, so 84.5 plus 1.56250. Here we are not allowed yet to round off. Take note that you are supposed to round off always at the final answer. So we have our Q3 is 86.0625. So round off this to nearest hundredth. So you will have 86.06, and this would be your final answer. Okay, so for our problem number 2, it's luckily, so it is already grouped and arranged through this table, and with that, um, you will not a lot more time in computing and creating your own frequency distribution table, because this one in this problem, it is already arranged and grouped already. So now we can now proceed with our computation, but of course you need to identify your Q1 class first. So remember the formula to find which position or which rank is your Q1, and of course for you to be able to identify your Q1 class. So our formula is simply n divided by 4. So our n is 40, so 40 divided by 4, so that would be 10. But of course, we are going to look for the 10th rank in our cumulative frequency. And so, we don't have our data yet for cumulative frequency. Let us fill in this column first. So we have 3. So the lowest frequency here, it so happened that it's 3 again, but take note, not all the times we started with 3. It depends on the frequency of the given data. So of the lowest class. So we have here, so since it's 3, so we're going to start our CF again by 3. And then next to that, 3 plus 5, we would have 8. 8 plus 8, 16. Then 16 plus 9, 25. 25 plus 12, 37. And lastly, plus 3, 40. So 40, it is equal with the n that we have here, so that means we got correct cumulative frequency. But of course, you need to double check. Sometimes we overlook some of the data. Okay, and now let us identify. You get your sketch papers with you. You identify or gather the data for your lower boundary, for your n, for your cumulative frequency before your frequency of your Q1 class, and your class size or class width or class interval, or specifically your I. Okay, so here I'm gonna substitute everything already. So we have here, and then process or do the PEMDAS properly, and with that, simplify properly, and don't forget for your final answer, you are supposed to round off only at your final answer. So here, as you can see, our Q1 would be 356.75. So round off to nearest hundredths if necessary. Okay, next is, of course, let us have our interpretation. So here, for quartile 1, we got an answer already, which is 356.75. You may present your interpretation through this way. At most, 25% or 10 of the workers are earning less than 356.75, and at most 75% or 30 workers are earning more than 356.75. So as easy as that. This would be the format in your interpretation. Okay, next is, let's find out for the quartile 2. Okay, so same manner, I highlighted our Q2 class. You need to take note of that always. And then after that, you gather the necessary data for our formula. And let's substitute in the formula. And with this, after that, you apply the PEMDAS properly and simplify properly. So now we can have our Q2 is equal to 386.61. Okay? So for our interpretation, so same manner, same format, at most 50% or 20 of the workers are earning less than 386.61, and at most 50% as well, or 20 workers are earning more than 386.61 pesos. Okay. So for last one, for our Q3 or the upper quartile, so again, you highlight the Q3 class so that you would know which class are you supposed to focus. Okay, and then after that, gather the necessary data for our formula and substitute, of course. And apply the PEMDAS properly. And with that, you will have Q3 equals 410.92. Don't you ever forget, guys, that you are supposed to round off only at your final answer. So make use of your calculator so that you can simultaneously calculate or apply the PEMDAS here in our formula. Okay, so we have 410.92. So for our interpretation, for our third quartile that we've got a while ago, at most 75% or 30 workers are earning less than 410.92, and we can say that at most 25% or 10 workers are earning more than 410.92. Okay, so we have here, this is our final answer for all the quartiles that we've got a while ago. But of course, there will be additional information. So how are we going to solve for the interquartile range of this given group data? So actually, we will be following the same formula that I've given to you when we deal with quartiles of ungrouped data. So we will just simply make use of our formula Q3 minus Q1. So with that, since we got 410.92 for Q3, we will be deducting 356.75, which is our Q1. And with that, our final answer, our interquartile range would be 54.17. So that's it for this video. I do hope you learn about solving for quartiles for group data and at the same time finding its interquartile range. So see you on our next video lesson. So thank you.